Committee of Public Accounts of the Western Cape. Now, before we start the meeting, which is the meeting for purposes of looking into the report of the Department of Agriculture and the Auditor General, and thereafter we are going to be looking at the report of the Community Safety. Before we may start with the meeting, can I just get an indication of the members of the committees and honorable members of the provincial legislature that are present? Thank you very much, Honorable. I see Honorable Van der Westhuizen's hand is up.
Good morning, Chair. Andrikus van der Westhuizen. I'm an alternate member to this committee and chairperson of the Standing Committee on, amongst others, Agriculture. Thank you, and looking forward.
Honorable.
Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning, everyone. My name is Matlhodi Maseko, and I'm the member to the Standing Committee.
Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning, Chair. My name is Derek America. I'm a member of the committee.
Thank you very much, Honorable America. And it looked like that's all really in terms of the members.
Morning, Chair.
Oh, Honorable.
Yes, I had my hand up. Morning, Chair. My name is Nomin Kondlo. I'm a member of the committee.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. If there is no more other people, now can I just get an indication from the procedural officer? Are there any apologies that we have received?
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, honourable members and stakeholders. Chairperson, Member Krego indicated early in the week that he will not be able to attend this meeting, Chairperson. And just following up on your next question, Chair, I see that the Department of Agriculture is in the meeting, Chair. The HOD is in. Just to let you know that we are in the meeting. I'm here Senior Manager for the audit of agriculture, as well as my manager, Johan. And then we also have our business executive, Ashley Alkes here. So we are in attendance, Chair. But I think your overall statements around what we have fed back around the matter is correct. That it is sub judice at the moment, and but we do have what we have received as an update to the Scopa Committee is the appeal hearing date, and the court date has been set for the 3rd of September. So what you have reflected, Chair, is absolutely accurate. But I just thought I'd let you know that we are in the meeting, though. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay, because the communication we received that we are not going to be present. So, but am I correct in saying that you are not going to be participated on the issue that we are supposed to be participating on? You will just sit in as observers.
That's correct, Chair. So we have consulted our legal unit on the matter, and they have indicated to us, considering that the appeal hearing is on its way and in progress at the moment. At this moment, it is still sub judice, and might be best to not interact on the matter for now and let the appeal hearing process go forward. I think that if there are any members that would like an update to the current status, it would probably be beneficial to circulate the court judgment that we have received on the 8th of June 2020, which was in the favor of the Department of Agriculture, and I think that particular court judgment gives a good understanding of the matters of this agreement for now. Thank you so much, Chair.
I think what I must do then, Mr. Ashik, is that we've taken note of that.
Visual evidence and voice evidence from the recipients, because one of the principles that we've adopted is end user principle of this matter in court, and we respect that principle. I thought I must give feedback to you. Don't think that matter must now have any further discussion as per your own ruling. Thank you for this opportunity, and I hand back to the Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Now, HOD to introduce, do some remarks and also introduce before we can get into the presentation.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning to you, to the members, and to my minister. This morning by the Deputy Director General, Mr. Darrell Jacobs, whom I must indicate is recovering from COVID, and I'm very happy that he could make time to join the meeting. Mr. Flores Esama and Mr.
Yourself?
Yes, it is myself, Chairperson. I want to confirm if you can see the presentation.
Not yet.
Okay, I'm going to try. Can you see it now, Chair?
Yeah, it's coming, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I'll wait for your confirmation. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Right, thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. You had asked that we brief the committee on the societal impact and the financial implications of the food garden program in the Western Cape. And I think if I look at the report, it was linked to the fact that around 2 million of ILEMA was not spent in the year 2019-20. This is very much, Chairperson, the roadmap that we will follow for this presentation, just to contextualize the food security according to the Food and Agriculture Organization, and also share with you the global food security indicators, and quickly just share with you our response to COVID-19, the approach to the food garden, but also listen to the voices of the citizens, because we think that is more important than what we say to the committee ourselves. But where do I start? If you look at Act 108 of 1996, it asserts that food security is a human right. Section 27(1)(b) states that the state must take legislative and other measures within its available resources to achieve this particular right. And if you look at the FAO in 1996, the definition of food security is that it exists when all people at all times have physical and economic access to dietary needs and food preferences for an active and a healthy life. I want to underscore this point that this is the definition that South Africa and ourselves here in the Western Cape embraces very much, and all our work is really informed by this understanding. Food security as an outcome rests on 4 legs, or what we refer to as pillars. It's one, the issue of availability, access, utilization, but also the issue around the stability of supply. I must indicate that although South Africa, in terms of food supply, we are able to meet our needs at the national level, and the challenge, however, is that at the household and particularly individual level, we still experience high levels of food insecurity. But of course, Chair, you would know that the current drought conditions will obviously contribute to pressures onto the agriculture. What we'll be reporting to you about today is really our effort to increase that number, because as many people embark on subsistence farming, they are able to meet their dietary needs. And I must indicate at this point, Chairperson, that we do not for once equate food production to food security, but we know that food production contributes to the realization of that outcome, food security. Very quickly, Chair, on what we've done around COVID, we have been tracking the impact of COVID in terms of its impact on agriculture. At the outset, we began to analyze the disruptors associated with COVID. We looked at determining the impact, but also determine what actions were required for us to be able to assist. We also embarked on a project to monitor prices, availability of food, and blockages. We looked at issues around the domestic market, but more importantly, also the export progress. If you look at the table on your bottom left, you'll see that there are 2 areas that were indicated with an amber sign. That is really the issue of food insecurity in vulnerable communities, which remained a large issue at the time, and hence we embarked on what we are reporting to you today. Shortage of farming inputs. You would know that our food value chain is quite a percent. Collaboration with municipalities is very key, but more importantly, we with the private sector to ensure that there's long-term sustainability to these initiatives. Urban agriculture, a very important program that we given the fact that food insecurity is more pronounced in urban settings, it goes without saying that we've got to find ways around which we encourage urban agriculture. Obviously, given the fact that in the city space, there's what we call monetized nature of access to everything. So it's important that we respond to that. Every year we commemorate the World Food Day to heighten the public awareness around the World Food Program. Something very important to raise, Chair, with the committee is that we've established a multi-stakeholder delivery structure, what we call the Food Security Committee, because we take a view that ourselves alone do not know who the food insecure people are, and therefore we need to partner with stakeholders, but also stakeholders within government to help with the targeting and to ensure that we reach through to the correct and deserving candidates. Partnerships for us are very key. I've listed on this slide some of the organizations that we're working with. It's not an exhaustive list, but important to note is that we work with like-minded organizations to ensure that we support communities to produce their own food. Excuse me, Chair. The impact of the food garden program, which is really the main issue that you had raised with us. We believe in evidence, and we thought we must bring this evaluation study that was commissioned by ourselves in 2014 to your attention, because we believe strongly in the evidence, and the evidence told us in 2014 the following. This is the sampling. 54 projects had been sampled in that particular evaluation. 40 of those were community gardens and 14 were basically the school food gardens. I think the table there indicate where these projects were located. 40% of those in the community gardens were in the city of Cape Town, and 29 and work well. It was around 6.5 as opposed to the larger groups that we've been seeing over time. Now, this is really the heart of it. The results indicated that there was 78% in the community garden space that remained productive, and 93% the school premises had remained productive, and also 65% at the household level remained productive. For us, that was great, because if you look at what is the average success rate according to the World Bank in agricultural businesses, is way below 50%. And if you look at what we've achieved, we think that is something to celebrate. Now, we also looked at the ability for these participants to meet their food needs. You'll see that post-assistance, all of them indicated 80% for community gardens and 78% for household. We also looked at the average month that the project or these initiatives remained productive. For community gardens, it was about 8.6 months per annum compared to the 5.5, which is also very positive considering what many of these beneficiaries are going through. Food security change from the assistance, we thought we must detail this, comes from the report. Amount of food eaten is improved up to 57%, 59% for community gardens and 57% in terms of the household. Yeah, nutritional value of food, 59% and 60%. This is really the improvement that was registered in terms of what we picked up when we analyzed. The rating of benefits of assistance, we also listed there. We have more food available to us, 70% for community and 76% at household level. We earn more because we sell food, which for us it's important because for these initiatives to be sustainable, there must be a way around which they are able to sustain themselves. So therefore, we encourage people to trade with their particular production. Inspired others to start food production, 74% for community gardens and 83% when we look at the household level. Access to market chain, an important occurrence for us, and it was important when we analyze the impact of the food gardens, that close to 42% were engaged in some form of marketing of their produce. 8% in the formal economy, but about 33% in the informal market space. And for us, that's important. And we will be doing a further iteration of this evaluation is planned for in this financial year to begin to check what progress have we made in the last 5 years around this area of work. We launched, therefore, what we call One Home, One Garden, which is really a strategy for a transitioning of citizens from food relief to food security. And these are some of the pictures, Chairperson, around what we have done. You'll see that is not only vegetable production, but it is also, we also invest in egg production in households where water is a huge challenge, to provide some lessons. Agriculture is a science, and what a better way to introduce these young minds into the science of agriculture, because these young people, based on what they see in their own school grounds, obviously it will trigger something for them to consider agriculture. So agriculture is a science, and it does contribute to learning of our children at schools. Food gardens supported in 2019-20. That is, these are the figures as they are in the annual report, which was already submitted to yourself, Chair, and the members. We had delivered 102 community gardens in that year, and 26 school food gardens, and 1,003 household gardens had been reached. We also thought we must detail what we expended in that season. Close to 13 million rands was expended in the year 2019-20. This is really to show you, Chairperson, where, excuse me, to show you, Chairperson, where these initiatives are. We mapped all of them, and it's important that we also indicate that these are visited by our extension officers almost on a monthly basis, because we also provide extension and advisory support to them. We don't do hit and run. We actually deliver this support, but continuously give advice. And that is why over time, we see some of these initiatives that started as subsistence farmers growing up to the level of smallholder farming, and also to commercial in some instances. What we've expended in the year 2020-21, 16.2 million rands in terms of what we had achieved. Our target for community gardens, 62 was our target, and output 132. School projects, 14 versus 43, and the plan was 800 household gardens, and we have exceeded that quite extensively, 5626. We also are involved in agri-processing, and we want to argue that agri-processing contribute to food security. In Elsenburg here, we've started what we call an agri-hub, which is really an initiative whereupon we bring producers here to expose them to the potential that agri-processing can bring to agriculture. This is really about a group, Sister Seeding Basket Co-op in Guguletu, that are growing vegetables. They were identified through the hub, and they were trained. They began to test their products at the local market. And the key thing for us is that when you start processing your product, you extend the shelf life of this particular product, and therefore ensure that food security is not only when you are harvesting, but it can be extended. The other key thing is that when people begin to add value to their particular produce, what then happens is that they become themselves a source of market for others who are producing on a smaller scale, and they can be able to procure from them. Now, this is a story of Leanne Gershwin, a very interesting story. Leanne Gershwin lost her job during lockdown, and in that process started what she called a kitchen garden, and she started growing peppers committed to Miss Natasha Johannes, who is doing an excellent job right in the referral system through the Food Security Committee that I referred to, Chair. But also the issue of theft in some communities, which obviously has been attended to through the local structures, because we work with the local structures to be able to achieve what we need to achieve. Of course, I've already indicated this year that, Chair, we will be taking another impact study And I must indicate that these studies are not conducted by ourselves. This is external evaluation studies that we get professionals out there, list of organizations that have been qualified by the DPME. We get that list from DPME and ensure that we appoint them to do this study. We will be embarking on that in this budget for this year. Chairperson, that's really all we needed to share, and we're happy to take questions. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Chair.
HOD. Honorable members, I think without any waste of time, I'm going to allow Casidra as well, so that when we deal with the issue of discussions and questions, we can all deal with it at the same time. Honorable members can ask questions both to the department and also to Casidra.
Chairperson.
That particular topic. So, but then if that's the case, then I'm just going to allow members, and maybe we'll get an update as to how has Casidra actually dealt with that particular issue. Honorable, I see there's a hand of Honorable Ngondlo.
Chair, before we proceed to engage the department's presentation, is it possible that we can get clarity from the department or from Casidra why they're not having
broad-based economic empowerment? The presentation there, because that was one presentation was going to be about food garden and the other presentation was going to be about BBBEE.
Just for clarity from our side, we weren't asked to make a presentation on BBBEE.
Okay, no problem. I think let's not actually waste time on that. We'll probably have to deal with that on our resolution. Now, what I'm going to do, honorable members, because it's clear that we don't have a presentation in terms of that. The presentation on the issue of food garden and food security has been presented in front of us. And then I would like to get an indication if there are any honorable members who would like to.
Whether the method gets there, but I think it's appreciated that we premise our intervention based on the constitutional imperatives, which guarantees citizens certain things. That's the first thing, Chair. The second one, I think I wanted the HOD to perhaps provide us more information. It may be here in the discussion now, or if they even have studies to substantiate this, they may share about the issue of food affordability, which I think is a sub-Saharan issue, whilst it is a South African issue, because one looks at this sort of dilemma or paradox that on one hand, we have a situation of food affordability, but at the same time, in particular as a province, we are a surplus producer of food. So perhaps there is something that can then explain this contrast and maybe some also studies to explain why such. And I'm relating this because I think in the early days of our committee, the ad hoc committee on COVID, I think the department made a very good presentation, which I think educated and opened my mind about, the food production in South Africa and in the province, and the extent of how I think food production is made very expensive and outpriced, to local people based on how I think the food value chains, I think it was just one of those things that were mentioned in there. But I would like if there is any, some of the elements that maybe the department can indicate to us, why are we having this sort of a contrast where on one hand we've got a surplus or a surplus producer of food, but also on the other hand, we have a challenge of food affordability. It's actually quite worrying. And how should this or how could this gap be narrowed? So that's the first thing, Chair, I would like more clarity on, and maybe a reference maybe to more material that one can read in trying to understand this particular challenge. And then secondly, Chair, the HOD speaks about, the role of informal traders. And I mean, I'm very passionate, I think, about this particular sector and the issues of informality, because as we always speak about the optics, of the formal economy, at most it always leaves behind a lot of people, which we understand based on the current frame of our economy, that majority of people are not necessarily participating in the main, or what we term the formal or mainstream economy. And I think as the HOD speaks about, the challenge of informal traders and the role they play in terms of food security, in terms of ensuring ease of access for those that are not necessarily able to participate, in the formal value chain. I just want to check from the department in the work that they're doing through the food gardens, what are some of the challenges or issues of regulatory environment impacting on this particular market, that is the informal market? Because I'm just thinking, as the HOD was speaking about, some of the household who may, out of surplus of what they get after or out of their food garden, they may want to sell, and I'm sure that would be sold in the informal markets, to the neighbors, to the people around, selling their vegetables or some of these things. And now I'm asking myself whether is there at a broader level, both in terms of the Department of Agriculture and conversation perhaps in the province in terms of food security, whether there is any conversation about looking at this from that sustainability point of view, and what are the current regulations, whether they are supporting or hindering, ease of doing business by informal traders, so that the kind of people that are implementing food gardens and seeing an opportunity, in terms of their volumes to sell into the informal market or informal trading, whether is there, ease of doing business in as far as that is concerned. So if the HOD or the team can actually give me some of the insights based on the work that they are doing, and what are the observations in that space. And then the third one, Chair, is that I would like to understand a bit. HOD made mention of this, but I just want clarity that do we have a database of food insecure communities or nodes or even households? At one point, I think in the last slide, HOD says that the indigent registers are not always updated, because I think that would be a source of understanding those that are in food insecure, because by virtue of them being defined as indigent, it's already indicating some of the level of challenge, in terms of social problems that they would be experiencing. But I'm trying to check from the department side, do they have any database? I hear also he says that they work with some of the other partners so that they are able to get to those. And if at this point that is actually blurry, is there any effort together with these food security committees to get to that point, especially HOD? How do you localize these food security committees? Because by localizing them, you get then, to be able to get to that level or granular level of who exactly is food insecure, both in terms of these households, individuals or communities. So I'm trying to understand that. And if you can indicate to me these food security committees, at what level are they operating? At metro levels, what level are they going down into a community level? Because I believe they are a very important structure. And how are they composed so that they drive the food security program of the department? And then in the one home, one garden, because I'm assuming, or I would believe that one home, one garden makes an assumption of people who have homes. And we understand that there is a level of homelessness, especially in the metro. There is a level of informality, and I'm not sure whether home refers, what would be a definition of a home, especially if one talks about or looks at informal settlements, which are many in the metros. So would those, and I'm not sure whether municipalities do have, they supposedly, if they use their numbering of those informal settlements, especially for the purpose of them being home beneficiaries of houses in terms of human settlement, whether are you able therefore to include them into this one home, one garden, but also how do you deal with the issues of space? Because if you talk about informal settlements in the main, you find them very packed. There's not even a space that from one for about 1,003 food gardens or community gardens. Can you then give to me what exactly, what would you say is the cost per food garden, and what would be the cost items, that goes into servicing that particular food garden, and that money, for how long is it used? Is it, used when you establish that garden, or you're talking also after it is established, there are also additional support that is given to that? How do you measure, or how would you quantify this particular cost, of a food garden at a time? Let me stop there for now, Chair. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Honorable Boko, do you mean you still want to come back again?
Sure. Please, full stops.
No, Chair. I think most of my questions, if they are answered, Chair, I don't think I will have any follow-up questions. I was listening and I'm interested on the issue. That's why.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Honorable America.
Gosh, that was a lot, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Initially, I wanted to premise my sort of input on the first sort of call it sentence or paragraph or whatever input of Honourable Nkondlo, in the sense that we welcome the presentation, and I think it is for us who are not regular members of the Standing Committee, it provides us with an insight in terms of this particular aspect of the work that they do. But Chair, I with no disrespect to the department or to Dr. Sobuketso, they are simply just executing what was asked of them. My view is that this presentation does not fall within the sort of purvey and the remit of this particular committee. It is rather the presentation that ought to have or had been made to the Standing Committee that needs to exercise oversight in terms of the implementation and the efficacy of this particular program within that department. Having said that, what's useful for me is it provides us with a sort of background insight into this particular program that should any matters with regard to its implementation should be raised by the Auditor General's Office that needs further interrogation and sort of discussion, then we as committee members do have a sort of historical and background information. So therefore, in conclusion, Chair, I say that we welcome the presentation. We acknowledge the department for the good work that they're doing with regard to contributing to food security. And we're looking forward to the next review in relation to its efficacy.
2021, the target was 876 and the output was 5,801, in a difference of 5,000. And I think for that alone, the department can be congratulated. The two questions I have are on slide 11. On slide 11, the department indicated that one of the disruptors of this particular project and or the agri sector has been imports and exports. And on that slide, they've indicated the ports. Now, in the Economic Development Committee, we've also done oversight at the port recently this week, and the Minister of Economic Development has gone to see the port and written to the President, and the President then also came to see the port this week, and the Premier was also there. And I just wanted to know what this particular disruptor's relevance is in terms of the food gardens, given that it is on the slide, so the relevance for that for food gardens. And slide 18, there is quite a high female representation in the food gardens and household and community participants. And I would just like to ask the Minister and the department, what did they do in order to achieve such a success? Because I think sometimes in our communities, we don't necessarily have all the answers because we're not necessarily the experts in agriculture. But if they could share some of those tips of what they did in order to have such high female representation within their food programs, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Van der Westhuizen.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity also to take part. I want to also appreciate the presentation and the wonderful work done. And I've recently put a question through the parliamentary system as to the sustainability of this program. And I must say the percentages quoted by Dr. Sibopetsa answered that concern of mine, and I'm really grateful for that. I just want to, in terms of what the Public Accounts Committee has asked before, I think we must then also acknowledge that, about a third of these gardens do not see long-term sustainability. And it is my impression that some equipment, together with other non-recoverable items, are handed over to such people that lead these gardens. And my question is just, in those cases where those gardens have not been sustainable, is there any possibility of retrieving some of the equipment that's been handed over? Or is this seen as a donation so that once you handed it over, it is no longer the assets of the department, and therefore the department is not able to recover any of the infrastructure or tools that have been handed over to the communities who have been in charge of these initiatives? Thank you so much.
Chairperson, you are on mute.
Apologies, honorable members, I was on mute. Honorable Maseko.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to take 1 minute with my question. Letting on what member Andrikas was asking, I just want to find out for sustainability of the community gardens. Is there a way that where you have already established, is there a way that you can use the EPWP worker laborers or that is not going to be acceptable? Because I've seen some gardens where it really, they can take over rather than they being sweeping the streets in some of the municipalities where you have that. Is that the idea that maybe you can include as you try to sustain those that are really can be revived to be sustained? Another question for the HOD is the phenomena of implementation of this, the phenomena of the poor people versus the poor communities. As you choose to implement these food gardens, how do you go about to separate where there is the need? Because it doesn't mean if you are in, I'm trying to think of a place where there are poor people that need those gardens, but they are living within the place that is called, that is it's not under the poor communities. I wonder if you understand what I mean. Is there a system where they can be included, irrespective of the area where they are, or where is being classified as not as the poor environment, poor areas? Do you have a system where you go deep as a department to look if there is community members that they can have those food gardens within their community? And the last one, it will be the reduce the water problem again on the sustainabilities of the community gardens. I think water is highlighted as the one of the problems of sustaining these gardens. How do you maybe empower those communities or communicate with the municipalities, as the water now, also the price of the water it's increasing, and it becomes a little bit problematic as we go to our constituencies for sustainability, for them to pay for those waters. So what is it that the department, maybe in sustainability as they plan, what is it that you implement, or how do you empower those community members to make sure that they sustain those community food gardens? I think that's all from me, Chair. Chair, you're on mute again.
Oh, sorry, thank you very much, Honorable Maseko. Now, I think that hand of Honorable Van der Versteysen, I think is the previous hand.
Chair, my apologies if I may come in for a second round now.
Before the answers.
Yes, Chair, there was just another aspect that I unfortunately forgotten to raise, which I wanted to, and that was that when we look at these food gardens, and being the department, I can understand why they emphasize the nutrition.
You're breaking up, Honorable Van Versteysen.
Yeah, sorry, my connection was lost for a brief moment. That when we look at these food gardens and we try to evaluate the value of these food gardens, that it's not only an agricultural or a food security aspect, but there's also a psychological aspect. You know, the pride that people take when they are able to produce stuff which they can contribute to a soup kitchen or to their neighbors or whatever. It's also a very healthy activity. And therefore, I think it's something that when we evaluate the value for money of these gardens, there's an aspect that unfortunately we cannot appreciate in monetary terms, but that we should also not discount or underplay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Van der Versteysen. Honorable members, from my side, just one or maybe two questions to the department. I see there was a slide on the participant, which was dealing with the 14-year-olds and so on. I see when it comes to home gardens, there are some 0 to 14-year-olds. Does that mean that are those the child-headed families, or it might be interesting to get maybe what was because I see there were a couple of 0 to 14-year-old that were participating. My second question is around the issue of the agro processing, and also is there any way that when we're doing this, especially where we show that slide of a lady who is producing some of these spices using some of the vegetable he has planted and is selling them. Is there a way of maybe linking them with the main retailers so that they can actually eventually move out of just being informal and become formal at some time, because that can only happen if you link them up with the main retailers and the big retailers to be actually their suppliers rather than just hawking and standing on the road. And therefore, that will mean that they've got a constant income that they are going to have, because they will be supplying some of these main retailers, so that they cannot always be on the periphery of the economy. Now, honorable members, we are really pressed for time because we're supposed to be here up until 12 o'clock. And now I normally hate to remind people about time because it kind of make them to be a bit uncomfortable in their presentation. But unfortunately, we are really pressed for time. And then because there's another presentation after this, and then myself and Honorable Maseko must also join APEC immediately after we are finishing this. So if we can try and be very economical in terms of our, not necessarily question, but in our elaboration on those questions. I'm now going to hand over to the department to respond. I just also want to remind members, but I will also deal with this on the resolution. The fact that we've invited the department, it did not fall from the sky. It was a resolution of the committee to say that let the department come and address us on this issue. And I think the department has done that very well, actually. I understand that this is not the Committee of Agriculture, but there was a definite resolution that was taken by this committee in terms of what the department must come and present to us. But I will deal with that when we come to the resolution, when we deal with it as a committee. Can I hand over to the department? Minister, do you want to have a first bite, or you will hand over to the HOD? It's really up to you, Honorable Minister. I know you always like to take the challenge. You are not the one who will move away from a challenge.
Thank you, Chair. I will try to also respect the timeframes since it is in my nature to be extensive in my answers, and I will try to respect those remarks in terms of your meeting requirements. I think I will limit it. I made a lot of notes from the questions, but the HOD will also answer some of those technical questions. I do think the honourable members raised the issue of the surplus of the provider of food versus the agricultural availability for the communities. We know that from last year, Chair, that we have seen that agriculture in South Africa at a 13% GDP growth, and the economy in South Africa actually declined by 7%. And so more and more people are becoming vulnerable as more and more people lose their jobs, they lose income, they lose food insecurity. And so I think Honourable Member Kontla is absolutely correct in terms of asking how can we narrow the gap between food production and food security, and the HOD will respond to that. And I think one of such instruments, and there may be many, is the whole issue of food garden at both the three levels, at the school level, at the community level, and at the house level. And I think the presentation does exactly that. I think we also all have a moral responsibility to focus more on the well-being of citizens, not only of the Western Cape, but in South Africa. When my wife and I walked here in the mall in Cape Gate, I saw a lady with a T-shirt. And on the T-shirt was written, "Perfectly imperfect." And that reminded me, in the world in which we live, we are perfectly imperfect as a result of the stress, the emotional stress, people losing jobs. And it's a very uncomfortable. Perfectly means you were employed, but today you are imperfect in the environment. And how do you deal with the whole psychological and emotional trauma of people losing their jobs and the income? And so what we try to do at this level is to try to bring a little bit more dignity into that specific environment. And I think we all have a moral responsibility to support such people. I also agree with Honorable Member Kontla about the importance of the sustainability issues which he raised, and specifically the issues of sustainability in terms of the informal markets, and the HOD will also respond to that. I think the member Bartman asked about the female representation. The HOD will also indicate in terms of the criteria, in terms of the empirical situation. I would like to offer also to the committee a normative explanation. And I think we know that women get things done and are taking the natural leadership in their homes, particularly around food and food security. So women come out naturally, and I think that's the motherly instinct to feed for their families. And I think this happens automatically. You don't need to push women to say, do this. So when women see this opportunity, it is a very natural instinct to do this. But as I say, that is my normative explanation, and we can ask the HOD to give them more empirical explanation in terms of the criteria. I think household garden chair, in terms of many of the other questions, I think what we are seeing, and specifically in relation to the question or the comments that was made by Honourable Member van der Westhuizen, we see given that we're living in a world described as perfectly imperfect, in that world, I think we need to use instruments to operate at 4 levels. The first one, I think, is the mental. We see a lot of mental well-being issues right currently now. If you lose your job, you lose your income, you lose your family, you can't say goodbye to your family, your loved ones, you can't attend a funeral. That affects the mental well-being. And I think food gardening is assisting people with the mental well-being. But it's not only that, it's also your spiritual well-being. Most of us, we can't go to church, can't go to attend our religious activities, can't attend our funerals of our loved ones. So it does affect our spiritual well-being, but also our physical well-being and our emotional well-being. And Chair, I and the team went last year to Lentegeur Hospital. We went to visit a vegetable garden at the Lentegeur Psychiatric Hospital, and the psychiatrist came to explain to us the contribution of the vegetable garden in the psychiatric healing of people. And I think all of these members, and I would like to encourage all of the members of this committee to also experience household gardens, plant some herbs, plant some vegetables. And I'm so happy that Dr. Sebopetse Mogale told me about his gardening activities. He has some chicken at his place. At my place, I can't have chicken. The neighbors are not that friendly as his. But planting and encouraging me to also have a vegetable garden. My head of the ministry, Marike van Jaarsveld, has a vegetable garden. And I think I can tell you it does a lot for your emotional and spiritual well-being. And I think we will, in the years to come, understand the psychological, emotional, physical, and particularly the spiritual impact of vegetable gardens in our communities. And it does a lot also for the self-esteem of people. Chair, I also agree with you about migrating the issues from small-scale production to formal markets and access the issues that you have now raised, but I think the HOD will also explain that. But thank you for the general support for the presentation. And I must say, CASIDRA plays a significant role between the department, between the community, between the schools as the implementation agency. And I want to congratulate the major role that CASIDRA are playing and building legitimacy in the community as a result of the great work and engagement with the various communities across the Western Cape. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Minister. HOD.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I must indicate that I'm now standing as part of well-being. I I learned from my minister that from time to time we need to stand. It's healthy. Chair, thank you very much. Just to respond to the questions, I'll start with the question that you raised, Chair, about the 0 to 14-year-old in the community, in the household gardens. We definitely encourage that, but you'll see that there is no 0 to 14 in the community gardens. Minister referred to the fact that I've got my garden and I work with my children in the garden because I, over and above producing stuff, but I'm also teaching them, the whole issue around where food is coming from. So it's not predominantly that these are child-headed households, but it's where the parents work with those young people. And we think that's something to be encouraged, because we also are in the business of wanting to grow future farmers. Your next question around the agri-processing, and you raised a very valid point, Chair, about exposing some of these products into the formal chains. It's an important point, but also, Chair, we also need to recognize that if you then introduce it into the formal chain before it's thoroughly established, you run the risk of discouraging these producers. There's also an issue around the niche market, whereupon the producers can be able to obtain a premium price for their particular produce. So it's a kind of a balance that you need to look at, because it wouldn't be wise to launch them into the bigger space when they are not thoroughly prepared. But in the end, it's the choice that they will have to make. Member Maseko, you asked 3 questions. Your first question relates to water. Water is indeed a big problem. We don't encourage that these gardens must use drinking water. We are one of the 30 countries in the world that are water scarce, with water scarcity, and therefore we encourage the recycled water, that people consider that. And we also don't want this initiative to put pressure onto the municipalities in terms of their budgets and so on. Your next question relates to, when you coined it, poor people versus poor communities. The reality of the matter is that the first point where we look at, the people that we should support is indigent registers, but also given the challenges around that, because poverty tend to take away people's faces. We don't want to be anybody to know that my household is on the indigent register. So we also go an extra mile to try and use the local intelligence, particularly the local leadership structures, to be able to pick up who should be supported. Because ourselves, we don't even for once begin to imagine that we know who's food insecure and who's not. And therefore, working with the local structures, we're able to be able to do that. It doesn't matter where you stay. If you are a deserving candidate, you will definitely be supported by our programs working with the local structures. The issue of EPWP that could be used in the gardens, it's something that communities projects are able to look at that. But obviously what we don't encourage is that somebody start a garden and say, I'm going to employ somebody to do the garden for me. We encourage that people work in their own gardens, because that way the whole issue around self-worth, around self-esteem that Member van der Westhuizen referred to comes into light. It's always, I gave you an example of Auntie Millie, that herself is saying, tonight I'm going to eat beans from my own garden. We think that is also very important to bring that to bear. Member van der Westhuizen, you raised a question around assets that people are no longer using, whether we can annex that. Yes, we're able to, particularly for your capital assets. That is why when we deliver this, we have an MOA between our agency, Casidra, and the beneficiary, to the extent that if they're not using it, we can actually annex it. Of course, it's not everything that we are able to take. Production inputs, of course, that would have been used already. And I think you raised a very valid point around the fact that we will not always be able to quantify the impact. You cannot quantify what Auntie Millie's statement means to her. Tonight, I'm going to eat food from my own garden. It may mean very little to many of us, but it means quite a lot to her, because maybe it's the first time that she's able to do that for herself, or maybe that was a dream that she had over many years, and that has been realized, and there's really no way to be able to quantify that. Member Bertman, 2 questions you raised. How is it that we're able to achieve so high a percentage of female participation? We make an extra effort to support women in this particular program. So if you are a female and you apply for this support, you score a bit higher than than your male counterpart, because we think it's important, and Minister already referred to the fact that women have this affinity to do things and to succeed in general. And indeed, that's what we have seen. Your question also relates to what the disruption would have caused or its relevance to this program. I've referred to the fact that our agrochemicals in general, we still import that as a country. And of course, as a province, we depend on that chain as well. And if we're not able to obtain fertilizers in time, or we're not getting fertilizers at all, it does have a ripple effect as to what communities are able to do. Honorable America, I've noted your point, and I'm glad that the chair responded to it, because all we've done here was to respond to the committee's questions as advised. Honorable Member Nkondlo, you raised quite a number of good questions, and I think my minister tried to respond to a number of them. The first one, really, you talk about how do we then explain the surplus production and the fact that we still have food insecurity. And it's really the issue around the market. And our view is that if more people produce food, we will begin to see prices coming down, because not many people will be depending on the chain that is in existence. And that is why we encourage that. This program is really to ensure that we reduce the reliance onto the purchased food by citizens. You also asked a question, and I think we can give you a lot of literature around that. I commit to send you quite a lot of material that you could also read at your leisure. Indigenous register, whether we have such a database. We do not have. Firstly, when we go to communities, we rely on the municipal indigent registers. And of course, accepting that such registers are not always updated, we also rely on the knowledge of our other departments. For instance, you know the work of social development, the work of the Department of Health. We rely on that data to be able to inform our targeting. But in the end, we rely on the leadership structures in communities. And you asked the question whether this food security committee is at local level. No, we have it at provincial level, but it is with the input from locals that gets to that level to be discussed. And that structure, we're able to then interact with the database that the Department of Health may have and the Department of Social Development may have, to be able to then target properly and ensure that as government we pull towards achieving the goals that we're needing to achieve. And we trust really the fact that working with the local structures and of course the NGO structures that are doing a lot of work, we're able to achieve our particular goals. One home, one garden, the assumption that everybody has a home. We note that the reality is a home is where you stay. And that is why if you look at the presentation, we've got what we call smart garden. It's really a box where we put a growing medium in the box. You don't grow your stuff on the ground. And if you stay in this particular informal setup today and next month you must go elsewhere, you can actually take your box along and go and continue with your farming wherever you are. And we call that smart gardens. We accept the reality that not everybody has a home, and therefore we do not discriminate against those who don't have formal homes as as we call them. Cost per garden, and what are the items? It will be your seeds, your seedlings, your family drip irrigation system, and your fertilizers, and your garden tools. But I must underscore here that there's no one size fit all. Obviously, every household may have different needs, and then we adjust it as and when required. The fortunate thing is that through partnership with BOKMA, we're able to also get JoJo tanks that we mount on the roofs for those people that have got solid structures to be able to harvest rainwater. So it's not one size fit all. We adjust it and adapt it as and when is required. Informal traders play indeed a very important role. And of course, the issues and the challenges that informal traders are confronted with in municipalities, it's really around the issue of bylaws and formalization and things like that. And I want to advise that this is a matter that we'll continue to engage local government on, because in the end, we recognize the important role they play. For instance, when we started last year, everywhere in the province and in the country with the humanitarian relief effort, we were quite on point to say we needed to ensure that whatever food that gets distributed in these communities, it must come from the informal traders. We never believe in the parachuting of food into communities, because what that does in the end is that you decimate all the informal traders, and themselves are creating a lot of jobs in the rural space, where, of course, I mean, they open even until very late and on weekends when your formal chains are not open. And this continue to play a very important role, and we continue to support them. And of course, we encourage those we support to network with the informal traders to ensure that their produce find their way through this particular chain. I must say, up to this point, we see some success, but also in some communities, some challenges. And I want to believe that it's a matter that we'll have to continue to work together on as citizens to find solutions that work for our people. Chairperson, I believe that we have responded to all the questions, and I want to thank you again for the opportunity. And if you allow, the issue of that was raised, if you'd allow Kasidra to make a point, they are ready to do that, Chair.
Thank you very much, HOD, and then I'm glad to also hear that you also got you've got free range chicken in your place. You are also keeping free range chickens. Now, honorable members, I think the issue of Kasidra, I'm just looking at the time, because already the department that is supposed to make a presentation is already here. I think let's deal with the issue of Kasidra in our resolution. We will see how we are actually going to deal with it. I'm just really doing that in the interest of time, because there's been quite a number. There has been quite an interest that has been shown on this issue. As a result, it has taken quite a lot of time. Now, and in that respect, honorable members, I really would not want to allow follow-up questions, because I think this has been quite a very extensive in terms of the response in the presentation, and I think the question that we have asked have also been exhausted in terms of answers. And then I think also in the resolution, let's just see how we are actually going to deal with the presentation that has been put in front of us. If maybe there might be members who want to have, because I've seen there's been a lot of interest that has been generated, maybe we can deal with some of the issues that members will want as follow up in the resolution. Then we can maybe ask the department to submit some of the issues maybe in writing, those that we are actually having an interest in. If that is fine with honorable members, I would like to make use of the opportunity to, I think, is that fine, honorable members?
Yes, it's fine, Chair.
Okay. If that is the case, then let me make use of the opportunity to thank the honorable minister, together with the HOD and the Casidra and the rest of the department for actually heeding the call of having to come and present themselves on the issue that we have resolved on. I must say it has been very educational, it's been very informative, and I've also seen by the manner in which members have participated, they were very keen on the subject. That's why maybe a subject like this should not really just be a presentation. It might be even be better dealt with by means of a workshop, really, because maybe at that workshop we can even end up having some way of how we think we can actually implement this. I think it has been very helpful. Once again, thanks Minister, thanks HOD for always being available. I know sometimes it might sound to be very difficult in terms of our question. Believe you me, it's not about catching you up. We really want to make sure that we actually get satisfactory answers. And I think, as I said, that we won't resolve some of the issues here. Maybe we'll see in our resolution how do we further interact with that, because I think agriculture can play a pivotal role in terms of economic development and economic empowerment. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister and the HOD. You may be excused now.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks. Thanks, HOD. Now, honorable members, I want us to move to the next item, which is going to be the presentation of the Department of Community Safety. I've seen the minister is already here, and I'm sure also even the HOD might also be here. Honorable Minister, let me make use of the opportunity to welcome you and thanking you for availing yourself in your busy schedule. And when we've made a call, you were able to respond. Now, I'm not gonna waste time because we seem to be under serious time constraint. If I may hand over to you, do some opening remarks, and also and thereafter hand over to whoever is going to make the presentation. In the interest of time, maybe it might be good that we don't really have to do slide by slide, because this has been presented to us. Maybe you can just talk through it, and then if honorable members got questioned at the end, I will allow them to do so. Honorable Minister.
Nkosi, Chairperson, morning. Thank you very much. Baie dankie. I'm going to almost hand immediately over to my HOD to do the presentation, because we also have a couple of issues immediately after this. You know, we have the alcohol amendments workshop today, almost at 12:15. So thank you very much for the opportunity, Honourable Chairperson and members of the SCOPA. It's always good to come and account, and to be able to account to SCOPA to say exactly what we're doing. So with those words, I would really hand over immediately to the HOD, Advocate Pillay. Thank you very much once again, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Minister. HOD.
Good morning, Honourable Chair and members. I would just like to indicate who is present with us this morning. So from the Department of Community Safety, the Chief Director Management Support, Ms. Lindy Govender. We have our CFO, Mr. Frizzler, the Acting Chief Director, Mr. Fred Watkins, Acting Chief Director Amanda Dissel, Mr. Johan Brandt, who is leading our safety plan initiatives. I think I have covered all the attendees, and also the Acting Director for Strategic Services, Mr. Fuad Davis. Honourable Chair, with your permission, if I could request the procedural officer to please reflect the presentation for me so that I could make the presentation. Thank you. If it can be projected, please.
Chairperson, I'm just getting it ready for projection, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. David. You can please put it on slideshow for me. So, Honorable Chair and members, the Department of Community Safety is the lead for VIP1, which is Safe and Cohesive Communities. The Western Cape is a place where residents and visitors feel safe. So that is the objective. And this will be achieved through enhanced policing and integrated law enforcement and violence prevention interventions. Next slide, please. There are apex priorities for the Department of Community Safety. And just to put the LEAP project into perspective, the Law Enforcement Advancement Program, which is LEAP. We have a chrysalis expansion program to support the Western Cape the Western Cape Safety Plan, and then a school-based violence prevention program, and then also amendments to the Western Cape Liquor Act in order to reduce alcohol harms. Next slide, please. Just in terms of some background information, the Department of Community Safety, in partnership with the City of Cape Town, launched the Law Enforcement Advancement Program, the LEAP as it is commonly known, in February 2020 as a deliverable of the Western Cape Safety Plan. The partnership entails the funding, training and deployment of 1,000 law enforcement or LEAP officers in areas with a high rate of murder, the objective of the safety plan being to halve the murder rate by 50% within 10 years. And during phase 1 of the project, we have deployed LEAP officers in Khayelitsha, in Nyanga, Delft, Bishop Lavis, Hanover Park, and Mitchell's Plain. And we will be deploying an additional 500 LEAP officers. So it was 500 LEAP officers in the areas I've just mentioned. And then the additional 500 LEAP officers will be deployed to Harare, Mfuleni, Guguletu, Kraaifontein, and Atlantis during phase 2, which is post July this year. The LEAP officers work in the main under the command and control of the South African Police Service and undertake joint operations together with the SAPS and other law enforcement agencies in the province. The project began in the 2019-20 year with training of the appointed LEAP officers. The deployment of the officers then took place in the 2020 and 2021 year post-training. Next slide, please. In terms of the some of the budgetary challenges that have been faced, the full complement of 1,000 law enforcement officers could not be implemented fully during the 2020-2021 financial year due to the COVID pandemic. This was mainly due to the closing of the training facilities as a result of lockdown restrictions. And the entire budget was subsequently not spent as a result of the aforementioned. And in the table below, you will note this is the total cost of the project. The department made a contribution towards the project, which is 75% of the funds, and then the city contributes 25% of its own budget in order to have the 1,000 LEAP officers trained and on the ground and deployed. So just in terms of the figures, it was almost 170 million, which was the cost of the project, the actual spend being just over 121 million. That's for the 2019 and 2020 year. And then in the 2021 year, the total cost, including the city's contribution, 557 million. Out of that, the department's allocation is 417 million. And then the actual spend to date, almost 145 million. Next slide, please. In terms of actions executed during the 2020-21 financial year, we were asked a question in relation to impact. So there were various operations that were undertaken, which included 1,491 operations by law enforcement or LEAP on its own, and then 791 integrated enforcement operations, which includes, as I indicated, other law enforcement units and agencies like the Metro Police, etc., the Provincial Traffic, and then joint operations of 1,816 together with the SAPs, and as I indicated, under the command and control of the SAP station commander in the areas that I have mentioned. And then the joint operations that were undertaken with the SAPs resulted in the following: visible policing actions, 4,989 houses searched, 163,408 persons searched, 93,257 vehicles searched, 1,786 liquor license outlet inspected, 231 unlicensed liquor outlets closed, 1,230 vehicle checkpoints conducted. Now, I'd just like to add, the department has also contributed funding towards the appointment of junior liquor inspectors at the Liquor Authority, and those junior liquor inspectors also form part of the joint operations with other law enforcement agencies. Next slide, please. Just in terms of the successes, during the 2020-21 year, 1,546 packets and 101 straws of tick seized, 4,298 liters of alcohol seized, 721 drug arrests conducted, 170 dangerous weapons seized, 61 firearms recovered, and 1,996 Mandrax tablets seized, and then also 1,228 arrests executed. Next slide, please. Okay, LEAP fines that were issued during the 2020-21 financial year. The LEAP operations resulted in various fines being issued during the lockdown period. Offences were amongst others for liquor law, bylaw non-compliance, traffic bylaw infringements, and illegal dumping infringements. So there were 25,920 Section 56 fines that were issued, 12,417 Section 341 341 fines, and then in total 38,337 fines that were issued. Next slide, please. Okay, just in terms of the way forward for this current financial year, funding, training, and deployment of an additional 500 officers by October to reach the target of 1,000 officers. 250 officers are currently receiving training and will be deployed post-training. We have been informed by the city, which we are also interrogating, that perhaps there will be a slight delay with that deployment of the 250 officers due to delays with the training and the training college, and then a further cohort of 250 officers will be deployed by October 2021. We are also have established a response unit of 40 LEAP officers that will be available to be deployed to areas where there is a flare-up of murders. For example, as we have seen during the past few days, there have been an increase in murders in the Gugulethu area. So the 40 LEAP officers will be deployed across the city when there are flare-ups. This will be a reaction unit that could be deployed immediately to an area that will be regarded as a hotspot as far as violence and murder are concerned. Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. I am done with my presentation. So over to you. We will answer any questions that may arise. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable. That was clear and straightforward and straight to the point. Honorable members, any indication of engagement or points of clarity, questions, comments that you'd like to have on the presentation that has just been presented in front of us? going once, going twice, and that is actually gone. So, honorable members, that means that actually no question then in terms of that presentation. I hope you have not been discouraged by the fact that I said that we are actually facing a time constraint, but I think the presentation itself was really clear and straightforward and was actually straight to the point, except that if I may just ask HOD, I think in your presentation, one of the indication was that some of the problem that you could not, because the main question from the committee was the fact that the money as budgeted for could not be spent on that time frame that it was meant for, and that was actually, you were saying it was due to COVID-19, and I think also one of the explanations you've just given now is the fact that there seems to be no space available in the training colleges. So with those, because it looked like now we might be having the strong rumors and a strong indication of a third wave coming, and then also coupled with the fact that you are also seem not to be having not necessarily a cooperation. It's not that you are not having cooperation from the colleges, is that maybe there is no space. So that means that we might be faced with the same problem again of not having to spend the money as budgeted for. Will that have those implications?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. If you will allow me to answer, the college is actually the college of the city. However, due to the severe lockdown regulations at the time, the college could not operate due to the severe lockdown regulations in relation to the gathering of persons in a specific space. Because as you would know, some of the training requires a physical presence, and one can't, have training over an online platform. And that was the reason that the officers could not receive the training or were unable to receive the training timeously. You are correct in stating that could possibly be a challenge going forward as well. We are trying our best together with the city to ensure that that measures are put in place to reach that target of 500 officers deployed by no later than the 1st of October. We are in discussions with them. We have also requested the city to provide us with a report to indicate what their challenges may be, and then for us to also then take into consideration should there be any potential underspend, and for us to then to plan accordingly and to plan around that to ensure that as far as possible that both ourselves and the city ensure that the 500 LEAP officers are on the ground due to the dire situation we are facing in relation to the murders and the violence in the province, but then also that we will do our utmost to ensure that the budget is fully spent, Honourable Chair and members.
Thank you very much, Honourable HOD. I think then, honourable members, if there are no further questions, then that means that we have come to the end of this presentation. Honourable Minister, I don't know, are there any comments that you'd like to make?
No, I just want to say thank you, Honourable Vimbi, for allowing us just to do the presentation. I can assure the committee that we are working very, very hard to sit and to pressure on the city to get us to meet the timelines. And I know it's difficult times. We can't meet and not more than so many people, maybe in a particular area or a room. So with all of that, we're still trying to really get down to, getting our deadlines met. And I can assure our colleagues that we are really sitting on the city to get and to meet those deadlines. But I really wanted to say thank you very much for the morning. As we prepare for our next workshop. Thanks very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister, and thank you very much, Honourable HOD. Now, I know, Honourable Minister, that it's always you are having a very hectic program Thank you once again for making yourself available. I know it has not been easy for you. That's why we have to rearrange the time. We should have the meeting earlier, but because of the unavailability, we have to make sure that we try and also to be flexible. Thank you very much for being available. And then thank you very much also HOD and the rest of your officials that are accompanying you. You may now be excused. Thank you very much so that we can continue with the business of the committee.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, members.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Thanks. The honorable members, while we are allowing the department to be excused, and then maybe as we are remaining behind to deal with the issues and matters of the committee administrative issues, I think, yeah, it look like. Now, honorable members, if we may just come then to resolutions, because I just want to also once again, honorable members, raise this issue of concern, because it seems to be consistent in actually being raised, because every time we meet as the committee, there will be members who are always questioning why is this even being discussed on this platform of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. Because I've got the indication as well when we were dealing with the issue of the Department of Agriculture that members seems not to understand why we were discussing the issue. I just want to bring to the attention of the members that these items don't fall from the sky. It's items that we have resolved as members. Let me just refresh the members' memory, especially on the issue of the Department of Agriculture. When we looked on the issues that was in front of us, we specifically said that the Auditor General of South Africa, the Department of Agriculture and CASIDRA briefed the committee on the matter which is before the court without compromising the subject care rule of on the matter. So that one we could not deal with today for obvious reasons. But I also wanted to deal with the issue of the of CASIDRA, as well as the presentation that was done by the Department of Agriculture. It specifically related to the issues of the social and financial impact of the presentation. Now, sometimes I got concerned when members seems not to know why the department is here, and then why did we even, it looked like members are even beginning to question why did we even invite the department, whereas we have collectively taken a resolution that we must invite that. So I just wanted to emphasize on that. But also, honorable members, I want us to just deal quickly with the issue of CASIDRA, because in terms of the resolution, CASIDRA was supposed to have given us a presentation on BBBE and how BBBE is being implemented in that department. I just want to get maybe some guidance from members as to how do we deal with that. They came here, they said they were not aware that they were supposed to deal with that. I see there are a couple of hands on the issue. Let me start with Honorable America, Honorable Maseko, Honorable Batman, and Honorable Ngondlo in that order.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I do not question your choice of items for the agenda, if I may say. The items as listed in the agenda is appropriate in terms of previous resolutions with regard to the AG and CASIDRA and whatever. My issue was the substance of the report regarding food gardens. We did not get a clear indication of the financial reporting with regard to the rollout of that particular sort of program. So perhaps, when we develop resolutions, we need to develop it in such a way that we have regard to the mandate of this committee, and those are financial statements of provincial departments and provincial public entities, any audit reports issued on those financial statements or any other financial statements of an entity or a department, any other reports issued by the AG on the affairs of entities or departments, etc. So perhaps it was an oversight on our part that we have not be more specific in terms of what we wanted to get out of the food garden resolution sort of presentation. But my personal view is just that we need to bear that in mind when we developed resolutions. With regard to your last question, in terms of the BBBE application, I think that we should just get them back to the committee to make a formal presentation about it, because it is relevant in the context of us evaluating their financial statements. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maseko.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I agree with you totally that everything that you bring on the agenda is what we agreed about. So maybe when we did those resolutions, we didn't tweak them correctly to sort of talk to what we wanted to find out. That is why now we get the reports that are issues that have to be discussed in the standing committee. But we learn that we will know, and we've got Dustin will guide us now for us to be specific about the briefings that we need. As for and take this from me, Chair, I'm not doubting anything that you are doing in leading us, because everything that you put there is our work. As for the CASIDRA, Chair, I think maybe it will be ideal if we can get that in writing. Again, it will have to be specific of what we need, and we'll read for ourselves so that we can reduce our tracking documents of the outstanding issues that are still there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maseko. Honorable Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I want to make some suggestions going forward. The first suggestion is similar to Member Maseko's one, that if we can ask for the BBBE information in writing, specifically also because it relates to general information in terms of law and not the specific financial statements. I would be happy with that, also given that there's also quite a heavy program before us in the next term. And in the second, how to do that better in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Bartman. Honorable Nkondlo.
No, thanks, Chair. Perhaps let me start where Member Bartman has ended. To say, I think it would be important for us as members that if indeed post facto, we review and we find that the decisions that we have made, we want to revisit. We just request the chair to allow us that particular conversation, and we do that so that we don't sneak in some inhibitions about what we have decided upon. I don't think that is right, because I think as a person who is a member in this committee, I always find the sense that when we start engaging in matters that we've agreed upon, you either find somewhat of a very sophisticated suppression of views and inquiry by members on departments that we have asked to come here, using this notion that this is a matter that ought to have gone to the department. So I'm just saying, if indeed we believe, because we should accept this thing, that we do not have members that are more intelligent than other members in this particular committee. We came here representing our parties, and therefore we've got a responsibility to do our work. So I just wanted to open with that particular statement, Chair, that firstly, I want to support, if indeed we believe that there is somewhat a misunderstanding by members of the role of SCOPA, that maybe we must have that conversation frankly and open, and don't insinuate it when we've decided that we need this particular committee, because these resolutions, Chair, as you correctly are stating, are emanating from previous conversations on the annual reports of these particular departments. So we must go back there, and then we must then correct ourselves, rather than when we're in a committee in front of the department, start to be very creative in terms of how, we're trying to silence other members. So that's the first issue. I support the notion that maybe we must put that onto the table and have a conversation, so that we've got an even understanding of the role of SCOPA versus the role of the other standing committees, because it seems this matter is coming frequent in this SCOPA discussions. Perhaps, Chair, that is one issue from what Member Partman you ought to take, and then please provide us an opportunity where such a clarity is made, so that it will help us into the future on the type of resolutions that we've made. But as it stands, the resolutions that we've made, from the previous SCOPA meetings must be fulfilled as we have agreed, unless there is a proposal to review those. So I would like to make that. Secondly, Chair, I would like to understand on the CASIDRA matter, because CASIDRA says they were not informed. So we have yourself there as part of the table, together with the committee coordinator. Can we get an understanding whether indeed yourself, your office, because I'm sure nobody here does not accept any boundaries in terms of the times that we have to speak, because I think this morning when you opened questions to the department, there was nobody. You asked for questions, there was nobody we indicated. I indicated my questions, and then I found later on, I'm told it's like I'm taking the time of the committee, which I am asking questions that I have, so that we know if you've got 3 minutes and you've got more questions, there is always a way in the committee, since my experience in these committees, that you are even advised that you can send your questions in writing when time is not enough. So I think let's try to treat each other, in the best honorable ways, so that we keep all of us still interested to participate, and not find ourselves that we're ill-treated in the committee and made to feel as if we're outcast when we're trying to do our work in the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ngondo. Mr. Davids.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, through you, I would second or third the proposal of Member Maseko, Member Bartman, in just perhaps getting the department just to give us a report on the implementation of the BBBEE, Chairperson, mainly for the main reason is that we still have the committee still has a lot of resolutions to cover with other departments and entities. And there's just an administrative concern, Chair, that with the emailing of the recent parliamentary program and with the upcoming local government elections, literally between now, from today up until October, there's only 3 meeting days for the committee, and that's in August, Chairperson. And then we've still got other outstanding meetings again And then also in between, from now up until next year, March, is the annual report period, Chairperson, that takes about a month. So there's a lot of meetings for the committee to still have, Chairperson, which it might get a little bit more hectic from here onwards, Chairperson, where we might even invite 2 or 3 departments and entities just to double up and to get the work of the committee out of the way, because we must report back to the Auditor General next year, April, to indicate have we met on all of the resolutions with the departments of the Western Cape government, etc. If not, why not? So there's even that monitoring, external monitoring for the committee, Chairperson. And also, Chairperson, just to allude on Member Bartman's input.
To make sure that we do oversight over that work and check up on that work, or so that's essentially the suggestion, Chair, that in order to make sure that we get to implementing all of the resolutions that we told the AG that we would do, so that we can get through enough information and make sure that that we don't clog up the system as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Bartman. Just on this last issue you have actually raised regarding the outstanding issues that we need to deal with, can I request that we get all of those in writing and it be emailed to us and indicate that, look, this is the list. And then from having seen that list, then we can kind of comment on that, look, we want this one presentation on, we want this one in writing and so on. So if that is fine with honorable members, the procedural officer just sent an email to us and saying that, look, this is this, and then we can give our comments. How do we want it? Either a presentation or we would like to get a report in writing. Is that fine with members?
Support, Chair.
Okay. Support, Chair. Then I see Honorable Maseko feels strong about this.
Chairperson, I just wanted to find out, since it's the resolutions and through guidance here, Dustin, we did the resolutions that we are going to engage. Now, if we are going to change that, is it not procedural if it has to come as an agenda in the committee? We sit down, the tracking document, we sit down with it and we make another resolution based on what is in our tracking documents. And then we take it from there. Just a question, it might be a lame one, but I'm thinking that that will be the right, unless Dustin, you say no, we have to do it per email, that will be fine.
I think he said that we're on track on that one. We say, because I saw him raising a hand. Okay, Dustin.
Yes, Chairperson, thank you for that. Just want to remember Maseko's question. Yes, that is also right, acceptable, Member Maseko. So, for example, I can email it, and then the members can then give their inputs via email. As long as there has been a minute, maybe something on black and white, where the members confirm this is how we're going to go forward with these set of recommendations. If the members agree on something, even if the Auditor General or any other external body ask us how was the implementation, that will suffice, Member Maseko, and then we can just amend our tracking document. Also, just a Member Conlos on question, Chairperson, the letters to the departments do get sent out under your signature, Chairperson, at least minimum 2 to 3 weeks before the time, Chairperson, because we don't want to put the departments under pressure to prepare presentations for the for the Public Accounts Committee, even though the committee section Standard Operating Procedure SOP does indicate at least a minimum of 7 days. But between me and you, Chairperson, we normally send it out about 14 to 21 days, just to give the departments time also to prepare something quality for the committee, because they are busy as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. That will be good. Then we will resolve as such. Now, honorable members, I must say my background in terms of meetings, I come from a background whereby you don't get restricted on time. in terms of what we are going to say and what we are going to talk. But of course, operating in the environment of government, time is of the essence. So when I sometimes remind members about time, it's not really about suffocating them or trying to suppress them, but it's just because that I can see that, because if you look at the beginning, I did allow everybody to speak, because I was not preempting that, hey, we might actually, time might be actually against us, but we have really been saved by the fact that the Department of Community Safety, we did not have a lot of questions. So when I raise the issue of time, it's not really, honorable members, that I'm trying to suffocate you or trying to suppress you. So Honorable Nkondlo, that was really not intentional or trying to say to people that they must not actually raise. I just sometimes see that as chairperson that, hey, if we are going in this manner, in this trend, we might not actually reach the time that is put for us. So in future, please bear with me. I'm not trying to suffocate you, but also honorable members, maybe in future, when what we must do for presentation, we can say whoever's going to make a presentation, because some presenters can get carried away during the presentation and they just talk all the time. Maybe if we can say for presentation between 5 and not more than 10 minutes for presentation, then we can allow enough time for questions and all those other comments that honorable members can have. Because if you look at the Department of Agriculture, most of the time, really, I think they took more than 20, 25 minutes just on the presentation. And maybe what I'll do in future, I will inform the presenters beforehand that, look, you've got between 5 and 10 minutes for your presentation, talk through it, because in any case, the presentation will have been sent to us beforehand. For example, the presentation of the Department of Agriculture, very impressive, very extensive, and very informative. I would have loved to say, when we start the meeting, honorable members, we've received the presentation. Are there any questions that you'd like to have? Maybe it will have dealt with the question of time. So I just want to then apologize, honorable members, if I came across as if I was trying to suppress you in terms of that. So if we can then agree on consider that that's how we are going to deal with it, then the issue of the workshop, I think on Dustin has actually answered it. It's receiving consideration. Now, honorable members, I want us, if we finish with that, there are no further comments. I want us to deal with the administrative issues of the House, of the committee. If there is no further comment on that.
High-level analysis of the expenditure of the department, etc., and just wanted to request for information, Chairperson. And the Auditor General indicated that they are happy in terms of the mandate of SCOPA for that report to be adopted, Chairperson. So that's basically all documents, Chairperson, that has to be adopted today by the committee, so that we can ATC that report and that we can, for the 4th of June, those resolutions on that minute, Chair, that we can action that as soon as possible, Chair.
Now, if you can then, for record purposes, then just flight the minutes so that we can go through it, and for record purposes, we adopt them.
Okay, no problem, Chairperson. If Ms. Kriti can just flight it for us quickly. There we go, Chair. So, Chair, yeah.
18th June. I'm just going to flight as it's on my desktop, right?
That's fine.
So that's 18 June.
Is it fine with you, Chair, and the rest of the committee that we can just start
Yes.
Yeah, and just work our way through the documents. So, Chairperson, there's the 18th of June. We've got the attendance, Chairperson. And then if we go to the second page, Chair, just our welcome and attendance, and just the briefings of our stakeholders, Chairperson, as it happened, stage by stage, Chair. And then just just that one, Chairperson. Last week you indicated that the committee is not going to do any resolutions or recommendations because time and stuff like that. And any resolutions is going to, and the administrative report is going to stand over to today, Chairperson. So that is what happened last week, Chairperson.
There are the minutes, honorable members. Any proposer, seconder, Honorable America?
propose that we adopt the minutes, Chair.
Proposed. Seconder.
Chair, Momo, on the minutes there, so Isaac is spelled I-S-A-C. Is it the right spelling or it's double A? Number 4.
Yes, Chairperson, that is the correct spelling. That is how the department sent through all of the names, because we asked the department before the time to send through the names of the 10.
Okay, with that being said, I second the proposal by Member America.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Matseko. You really have read the minutes.
Chairperson, then we go to Thursday, the 25th of March, Chairperson. And that was basically, these are actually old minutes, Chairperson. This was just for when we adopted the SCOPA resolutions on the annual reports of the departments that we had in January, Chairperson, that last week in January. And all of those other old minutes was then also adopted, Chairperson. So this is just is a very basic set of minutes, yeah.
Proposer and seconder.
Support.
Proposed.
Second.
Seconded. Thank you very much, Honorable Maseko and Honorable America. Next set.
Being interested in academics, Chairperson, the prof has attained
teaches and lecture. Okay.
She has attained a assistant professorship at UWC, so officially she's known as Professor, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the 4th of June, Chair. Chair, this is where it's getting, sorry?
Just as you know, to retain the title of professorship, you need to get special permission from the university if you're not in academia. Can you confirm that, or it's just semantics?
Honorable members, I cannot confirm nor deny any knowledge about the special affirmation that was given by the university, but I can find out for the honorable members.
Chair, if we can just go to the basics and she becomes Minister Noma Franchimbombo with that amendment, and we continue with the other administration.
Agreed.
We'll do, Chair. We'll do. Let's do that, Chair. I will make that amendment in that minutes, Chair.
Okay, no, thanks.
Right,
the next set of minutes?
Yes, Chair. This is the last set of minutes before we go on to our reports, Chair. This is the 4th of June. If we can just go down, Lizette, to the second page. And once again, Chair, now there I have, as the committee knows, if there's any issues of query or contentions, then I will capture it in the minutes. I have discussed it with the chairperson, and the chairperson did indicate that we must bring it to the members' attention. Members, this is basically then what happened, where Member Bosman then inquired, because from here, from this whole, from these 3 paragraphs, the resolution is made where we write to the speaker to request for additional training and capacitation. So, Chairperson, from an administrative point of view, it would have it is deemed to be good to give the scenario which has been put there in those paragraphs to speak to the resolutions on the next page, Chairperson. I don't know, as always with the members are very resourceful and very helpful if they want to amend some things especially in this set of minutes, Chairperson, or if the members are happy to adopt it like this, Chairperson.
Honorable Maseko and Honorable Bartman, in that order.
Thank you very much, Chair. Dustin? Yes. First, if we go up on the minutes.
Yes.
I think Member Bosman was querying the why the agenda was there.
Yes.
And the members of the committee, we know why those issues were there.
Yes.
So I take it is to us a query 1, and for it to be on the report, and that is my take, I don't think it was important that we put that on our report, okay, because what was important to us is the engagement. Our okay, report has to be about the engagement of the department with the standing committee.
Okay.
2, if we go to the bottom again of the suggestion of Member Bosman, like we don't know what we are doing. Sorry, so he came for us to be empowered. I don't agree with that decision. Yes, I agree with the decision that we need to be empowered for our boundaries of the scope of operations. Yeah. That we agree that we need to have that. But based on what of that query, then to that resolution, I don't agree to it at all.
Okay.
Which one? The 6.2?
The 6.2 that
the speaker.
Yeah, that the speaker of the don't provide guidance, detailed interpretation of standing rules of.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I agree with the training on the oversight powers of the committee, but not that one.
Okay. Okay. No, sure. Honorable Bartman.
And let me finish. Okay. Yeah, let me leave it. Bartman, take over.
Honorable Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think when it comes to minutes and through you, Chair, I need Mr. David's advice on this particular front. I think the minutes is more to confirm what was spoken about and agreed to in that particular meeting, and not necessarily whether or not we want to go forward with a particular resolution in the future. My advice is that if I'm correct, Mr. Davids must please correct me here, because I'm also relying on his guidance on this front. If we are supposed to only adopt in order to show what we spoke about and what was agreed in that meeting, then I'm happy with the minutes as they stand. And then we can have a secondary discussion about whether or not we would like to amend a resolution and go forward on a particular resolution in this meeting. I'm not sure if you understand what I'm trying to put, Chair, but perhaps Mr. Dustin Davids can assist me in this regard.
Before I give Dustin, I will just also ask Honorable America, and then Dustin will come in at the end.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to raise the same point that raised Honorable Bartman. I don't think we can retract or delete this particular resolution from the minutes, but our today's resolution, for today's minutes, we can then retract that resolution. But as the minutes stand, we either need to adopt it or we don't adopt it. But that 6.2 need to be retained in the minutes. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Davids.
Yes, Chairperson, thank you, Chair. Through your members, this is the minutes of the Public Accounts Committee. I agree with Member Bartman that it is basically just to give, especially when contentious issues are raised or when robust oversight is raised, just to give the reader an understanding of then what happened in the meeting, who requested what, who said basically what in a very high analysis level type of way, and then obviously that will speak to number 6. Chairperson, that being said, and as I said, this is the Public Accounts Committee's minutes. At this moment in time, it has not been adopted yet. It is now still being considered. The committee is at liberty, because it's the committee's minutes, to amend this minutes. So the committee is at liberty to take out resolutions, to say we want to keep in those resolutions. It's now at the committee's liberty to make such amendments before the adoptions, because once we have two members that's adopting and seconding, then that basically becomes binding. And if there is any other, if the committee maybe in the next month or two wants to change these 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, then we must repeal it in the next meeting and say we are repealing, just for example, 6.2 due to these reasons in the next meeting and in that set of minutes. But at this moment, Chair, you have just tabled it for consideration. It's not adopted yet, and the committee is now at liberty to say we want this in, we want that in. Once the committee is happy, then they will then say we adopt, and that minutes, this minutes that's maybe amended or as is then binding going forward and actionable.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Sorry, thanks very much, Mr. Davids. Now, I agree with you. This is the reflection of what took place in the previous meeting, and now we must confirm that, and that is the case. However, in terms of implementing it, that can be something else. We can say, notwithstanding that decision that we've taken, we would like is either we delay it or not to implement it, because, for example, on that specific issue, if it's matters arising, I believe the office of the speaker, when it comes to our issues, is the office of the last resort, especially when we are being thrown asunder on issues that we cannot find each other. Then we can say, Honorable Speaker.
Officer, perhaps what we could do is we could incorporate it into the training, maybe requesting that once we've done the training, that we also perhaps invite the speaker or the speaker's office to maybe also do introductory remarks before we do the training, or have the legal office perhaps chat to us as well. So that in that way, we assist with the implementation of the resolution that was taken at a previous meeting, while not taking anything away from the fact that we've now agreed that we would like some more guidance on the particular topic. And then in terms of 6.1, I'm also neither here nor there on, because it's not a resolution that I particularly put and particularly passionate or not passionate about. I don't mind us getting 6.1 in terms of a report, and then based on the report, deciding when.
In the meeting for the first, I think 10 or 20 minutes, Chairperson, then Member Maseko left to present to the NCOP, and then Member Maseko came back in again, because I constantly watch who comes in and out of the meeting. So I have noted that a constant in and out of the meeting, although Member Maseko wasn't 60 or 50% of the time present in the meetings. So as I once again said, Chair, it is, if Member Maseko wants it under wants a name under the apologies, then we can do it, Chair. But I'm just using the terminology of Member Bartman is neither here or there, Chairperson, because Member Maseko was also at times in the meeting, Chairperson.
Okay. Honorable Maseko.
Chair, I was less than 30 minutes in the meeting. If it's acceptable with the 30% of the time of the meeting, then it's present. But if it's not acceptable, that means I was not in the meeting. I don't know. Okay. Either me or no. What do you say, Member Batman? Either or.
Chair, I actually wanted to say, I don't think this topic is worthwhile debating. I think it's moot, because we had enough members for voting purposes, because members Bosman and Wenger also stood in as alternate members in that meeting for that day. And we also had Member Knegoye from the EFF. So we were actually 5 voting members, to my knowledge, on that day. So I don't think having the debate is worthwhile, as it is moot.
It's neither here nor there. Yeah, that's the most popular phrase today. Okay, then, honorable members, that kind of resolve the matter. What we are saying then in terms of the resolution, they are going to stand as they are, but in terms of the implementation, because then they will come as matters arising. We're saying that in terms of 6.2, what we know, notwithstanding the resolution that was taken on that, but on the meeting that we are going, or the workshop or the training that we are going to arrange, the office of the speaker will be invited to make an introductory remark around the legal standing of the decision taken by the Standing Committee on Public Account.
Yes.
Is that fine, honorable members? Honorable Bartman?
In order, Chair, and Chair, I'm not sure if the
Chair, then it's basically just Chairperson. This is our annual activities report, Chairperson. It was tabled on the 4th of June, but then I just indicated
not have enough members.
Yes, it was the members, Chair, and then basically also from the quarterly report, just to check if it's 100%, Chair. It was checked, vetted, etc., Chairperson, so everything is in order as what we have done for the year last year as the committee, Chairperson. It's just a high-level analysis of who the committee called to account, what was the expenditure, public participation, etc., Chairperson. As you can see under number 7, it says there that we had our annual report period, 25th to the 29th, and so forth, Chairperson.
Propose and second.
Chair, before I propose, under number 7, sentence 3, there's an extra space just before 29 January. Either the space must be taken away or an extra space must be put before the hyphen at 25th. Okay, but otherwise I support with that amendment.
Perfect.
That's a good one. No, thank you very much. Now, next issue.
Chairperson, the next, based on what's going to be reflected, is either the fourth quarter, Chairperson. There we go. That's the fourth quarter, Chairperson. That was also flighted last time.
Yes.
And then we just checked for that the dates, etc., they were correct, Chairperson, which they were. I was a little bit skewed-eyed on the fourth, Chairperson. The report was correct, Chair, at that time. Yes, and also because we didn't have quorum to adopt, Chairperson. So,
any takers on that, honorable members?
Chair, can we just quickly go down to the bottom before we support or adopt?
I also want to see on my name.
Oh, so do you just want for the attendance, Chairperson? Okay, there we go, Chair. So there we go, and then we just go up a little bit. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So those are all of the meetings that we had. So that was basically the for the annual report, Chairperson.
Why do I have so many apologies?
I can have a look for you. Can I come back in an email just to let you know for the reasoning members?
I will appreciate that.
I'll do that for
but
you.
If you adopted already and maybe there's something that is not correct, can that amendment be done?
Yes, at the next committee meeting, member. But well, I will provide an email with all of the apologies from the permanent members of the committee for the quarter, and then they would.
Thank you very much. Proposals, the second, Honorable Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. I support the report.
Who's seconded by any seconder?
Myself, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable America. Are there any other?
Nothing else, Chair.
Further issues, honorable members? If there is no further issues, honorable members, That means then we have come to the end of our meeting. We have it's exactly 12 o'clock. Let me make use of this opportunity, honorable members, to thank you for taking your time and attend. I know sometimes it's not easy on a Friday, but we've done a great job. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.